to say, this is like the most awesome stage that I've ever been a part of. These lights, this like whole round thing, lovely people in front of me. Thank you all for being here today. So I see a room full of builders and designers and PMs and entrepreneurs and VCs. And I want to talk a little bit today about how we build products here at Facebook. And at Facebook, our mission is to make the world more open and connected. And over the past 13 years or so, we've built a lot of products. We've built a lot of features. Some of them have been very good for people and have scaled and have become very, very meaningful. And others of them, really not so much. We've tried a lot of things. They don't always work. And while we're still in search of the rule book or the playbook that gets you step-by-step instructions for how to build the perfect product, unfortunately, we haven't found it yet. And I think many of us in the room are still searching for the answers to how to build a great product. That said, when we look at our successes and our failures, there are a lot of things that we've learned, and a lot of patterns and takeaways and things that now inform the way that we talk about building products today. And so today I want to share with you guys a simple framework that we've developed and that we use in all of the discussions about building products today at Facebook. And it's really, really simple. It's actually just 3 questions. But before I start, I want to ask the room, how many of you guys have had the experience where you either approach a friend or a friend comes running to you and their eyes are really wide and they're smiling and they're like, I've got this amazing idea. And then they proceed to tell you, how the idea works, and it's a combination of app X with app Y, and it's going to have these features, and here's what it's going to look like, and so on and so forth. How many of you guys have had that experience or done that? Okay, yeah, me too. And I think, as a builder, a lot of times, what we get excited by are coming up with these solutions, coming up with that aha moment, like this is the way that, the product comes fully formed, and we want to be able to go in and explore that vision. But it turns out, in all of our, learnings, this is really not the best way to start the product development process. In fact, it doesn't start with a solution. It doesn't start with an idea. The first question that we actually ask our product teams nowadays when they're coming and talking about something that they want to build is this one. What people problem are we trying to solve? Is it clicking? Click? Okay, I might need another clicker or something different over here. Okay. Okay. We'll just admire this lovely screen. Here we go. The first question we want to ask is, what people problem are we trying to solve? And I highlight people because that's really the core component of it. We want to be able to go out and really talk to the audience and understand, what it is that is going to actually provide value in their lives. And it turns out coming up with a good people problem statement isn't really so simple. There's a lot of traps that you can fall into. So, first of all, we ask that the statements we come up with are human and simple and straightforward. It turns out this is a little bit hard to do. But we say, we want to be able to come up with a statement that you could explain to your relative or a friend who doesn't work in tech, and they'd totally be able to understand what the problem was. That means we don't want to use language where it's about optimizing or it's about high inventory users or, all of this technical jargon. It should be something really, really simple and really, really straightforward. The second is that we want a good people problem statement to be solutions agnostic. When you start by saying, we want to build a dashboard that blank, you're already assuming there's going to be a dashboard. And it's really unclear if that is actually the right solution. A better way would be, for example, to say, the problem that I want to solve is that a lot of people don't know what's going to happen this weekend with their friends, and they want help, finding events to go to, right? That doesn't assume that there's going to be a dashboard. The third, and we always remind ourselves of this, is that it shouldn't be about us. It shouldn't be about Facebook or the company winning. So any statement that starts with "make Facebook the best place to blank" is not a people problem statement. It doesn't start from first principles, which is what are we trying to solve for people. Next, a good statement gets at the why behind something happening. So for example, let's say that you're seeing user registration to your app going down, and that's a problem. It's very simple to say, well, we need to solve the problem of user registrations going down, but it doesn't get at understanding at all why. Is it because people find your sign-up flow confusing? Is it because people just don't buy that when they go and see your product that there's value for signing up? If you can't understand the why behind it, then you're not going to be able to come up, even start exploring what the right set of solutions are. And lastly, a good people problem statement can be functional, but it can also be emotional or social. We're humans. We're creatures that need things like to feel like we belong, or we need to feel like our friends care about us. And a lot of times, that is the real reason governing the actions that we take. And a good people problem statement sometimes gets at that. It's not just about the things that people do. So what are some examples? So recently, I was at a Moms 2.0 summit. This was a gathering of some of the top mommy bloggers and publishers about parenthood. And we were in a panel, and we were talking about kind of the issues that new mothers face. And this is something that kind of came up over and over again. New mothers said, I want to be able to talk about an interest. And in this case, it was, I'm a new mom, and I want to be able to learn about this new role and connect with other new mothers. But a lot of times, people just don't know where to go. They don't know where to go and find that information. They don't know how to find their tribe. Another people problem statement we hear a lot when we talk to people about their news feed is the fact that, I see all these stories and people share stuff, and there's this big like button, but not every story is likable. A lot of times people are sharing stuff that is tragic or sad, or they read a news story that made them really, really angry. People want more ways to be able to express what they're feeling. Or take the last people problem example in the realm of video. What we heard was, I want to share spontaneously and authentically in the moment. And so these are some examples of, statements that are easy to understand. They're simple. You can tell right away whether or not, it resonates with somebody. But we could also just sit here all day and construct, tons and tons of these examples. Which is why it leads us to our next question that we always ask ourselves. And that is, so how do we know that this is a real problem? And by know, what evidence do we have? Do we have qualitative data? Do we have quantitative data? And I say real as a way to sort of talk about, is this a problem worth solving? Because there are millions of problems in the world. I think there was a rap song about how all of us have 99 of them. But the truth of the matter is, if you're going to go and build something, you can't solve everything all at once. You have to prioritize. You have to figure out what to focus on. And in order to understand that, you have to have evidence that the problem that you're posing is, in fact, a worthwhile one to solve, that it affects enough people, or that it's meaningful, or that you have evidence that it's not just you who feels that this is a problem. In our example of connecting people with other people around topics that they're interested in, this is something the groups team at Facebook was really, really curious about. And they went and they explored the data to try and understand how many people had this need, how many people wanted to do this. And one quantitative piece of data that they found was that we had this discovery unit on Newsfeed. It was called Groups You Should Join, where it suggested, hey, here are some groups that your friends are a part of. Perhaps these would be interesting to you. And even though it was a very, very small piece of the group's product, and it was the small suggestions unit that sometimes came up, this actually drove a ton of people to joining new groups, which indicated that there was a real demand for better discovery tools. Also, anecdotally, we would hear tons of stories. My good friend recently became a mother, and she's also a doctor. And one of her colleagues introduced her to this group called the Physician Moms Group. And this is actually one of the most active and most engaged groups on all of Facebook. In fact, I think 1 out of 4 women who are doctors and mothers in the United States are part of this group. And for my friend, it's been like completely transformative for her. She spends like 30 minutes or an hour on this group every single day, getting advice, asking questions, looking and participating in the discussions. But she was sort of like, I almost felt like I found this group by luck, because what if I hadn't known somebody who was a part of this group who invited me? How would I ever know that this resource existed? And similarly, I was talking recently to a friend, and we were talking about our upcoming class reunion. I was like, oh yeah, you heard about all the updates? And he was like, what? Like, we have a group? We have a group for our, graduating class? And all over the world, a lot of times when people discover a group for the first time, whether it's about an interest that they have, like design or photography, a lot of times their first reaction is like, wait, how come I didn't know about this sooner? And so with all this evidence, this is kind of what led the Groups team to work on a new discovery page. It's called Groups Discover. Wherever you access your groups in Facebook now, you'll see that there's a tab. And when you go there, it just surfaces all sorts of groups. Groups that your friends are in that you might not know about, groups that are local to you and your neighborhood, as well as groups sorted by categories and topics that you might be interested in. Things like parenting or buying and selling goods in your local community, or sports or cooking. So regarding newsfeed and the people problem of not everything I see in Facebook as newsfeed is likable, how can I find better ways to express how I feel? Here the team also did a bunch of qualitative and quantitative analysis to understand how much this was a real need. One thing they did was, ask a bunch of people to come into our user research lab and talk us through, how they were consuming their newsfeed, and when they read an install story, how did they react? The second thing that they did is they looked at kind of what are people doing today, short of us having an easy way to do this. And a lot of times what people would do is comment, and they might use a sticker or emoji to express something in a lightweight manner. And so we looked at all of that, and we looked at what were the most popular emotions, what were the most popular reactions that people were having. And finally, we also looked at people who wrote really, really short comments, things that were 1 or 2 words long, and it'd be things like awesome or like that sucks, and we analyze that data to try and help us understand what were the most common sentiments that people had and what they wanted to express. And with all that, we ended up launching a new feature called Reactions a couple months ago. Many of you probably have seen it. And it's basically an extension of the like button. And using that insight that we gathered around what were the most popular things that people wanted to quickly express, we put together a set. So you can say, you love something, you saw something that made you angry or it made you sad. And that was what gave us more confidence that this was the right product to build. And finally, we heard from people all the time, actually mostly from public figures. They were very, very used to live broadcasts, right? They had done this on TV for ages. And they would, often tell us, hey, it'd be great if you guys could help me live broadcast or connect more closely with my fans. And so we actually built this product for celebrities and for public figures first. We launched it in our standalone app called Mentions, which is something that those people have access to. And people like The Rock could live broadcast and connect with their fans. And we got a lot of positive feedback. But then we also heard was that a lot of people asked us, how come this is just for celebrities? I mean, I want to use this too. Why are you guys going to launch it for everyone? Not to mention, we started to see, even in our use of live internally, a lot of creative ways in which people were using live. For example, a team started just broadcasting their team meetings so that people who could make it could kind of tune in, and there would be a record of the meeting. We started to see people just take out this product on weekends and share intimate moments, with their family and friends. And these people have, no intention of wanting to be famous or getting a large following, but they were having fun with it. And finally, we would see colleagues do things like go for a run and want to broadcast live so that their coworkers can kind of tune in and encourage them and say like, you guys can do it. And these are all like examples that we had never thought of before when we were just thinking about designing this for public figures. So that led us to developing the live product and actually launching it so that's available to everyone. Right now it's available in 60 countries on iOS and Android. And we did start to see really, really remarkable uses. The first is like you can go and actually see live what someone is doing where they're getting a tattoo. I don't have any tattoos. It made me really not want to get one. The second was, a woman who got married, and her father couldn't make the wedding due to health reasons, and so she live broadcasted it so that he could be there and he could, comment and follow along and feel like he was there in the moment. And for me, I recently scored reservations at one of the hottest restaurants in San Francisco. I'd been looking forward to it for a really long time. It's a restaurant called Lazy Bear. And when I was there, the chef was giving an intro and talking about the meal he was preparing and what went into it. And I wanted to broadcast that live to my friends so that they could live vicariously with me through the moment. So, this is sort of the process. We start with a problem. We try and validate whether or not this is a real problem. We build a solution. But then that leads us to our third question, which is to be rigorous about whether or not the solution worked. The third question is, well, how will we know if we solve this problem? And in a lot of ways, it's better to actually answer this first before you launch anything, because at the point at which you've already put something out there, you're starting to get data back. You're looking at all sorts of numbers, there's click-through, there's whatever, and you're doing this thing in your head where you're trying to interpret, is this good, is it bad, did it meet my expectations? And it's just much better for the whole team to be aligned on what success looks like prior to anything going out. And so by asking ourselves this question, it puts a little bit of rigor on making sure we really are trying to, establish what does it mean for us to have solved this problem. A lot of how we do this is it leads us into then developing measurable goals and milestones and metrics that we can hold ourselves and the product that we built accountable to. So an example of groups and groups discovery, we wanted to make sure that people could find a way to talk with other people about things that they're interested in. How will we know if we're successful? Well, after we launched Groups Discover, we should expect to see that people are joining more groups. It's pretty simple. But not only that, we want to make sure that people are actually joining the right groups and groups that are valuable to them. So it's not just about like, oh, did they click the button? Did they click join? It's about, 1 month from now, 2 months from now, going back and seeing if the groups that they joined are ones that that person continues to use and find valuable. An example of reactions and wanting to make sure that we could provide more expressive and lightweight tools for people to share how they truly feel about a story. We wanted to make sure that, yes, are people able to now share more feedback? I mean, that was the whole point, right? We wanted to give people an easier way to do that. So we should see, if we were successful, people sharing more feedback than they did prior to us launching this feature. We also wanted to make sure that the reaction set that we launched were not random, that they were actually well-intentioned, and that they actually, corresponded to the things that people wanted to say. So we wanted to make sure that, the reaction set that we chose was going to be used by people. And in fact, in our first test, we launched actually a lot more reactions, and we looked at the data, and it turns out, some of them people just weren't really using. And so by the time we ended up doing a global launch, we ended up cutting some of those reactions. And finally, we wanted to make sure too that if you, got a reaction on your post, that it felt like it was a good experience, that it felt better than just getting a like count, that you felt like the information was more interesting or more valuable to you. And finally, in terms of live video and launching live video to everyone, We wanted to make sure that, that people who broadcasted had a great experience and that they felt like, yes, this is something that lets me more spontaneously share with my friends in the moment, right? We wanted to make sure that, they liked that experience so that they would come back and use it again. And similarly, if you watch the live video, we wanted that content to actually be interesting and meaningful. So if we were successful, we should see that more and more people are spending more time watching live videos. So these are some of the examples of the ways in which we try and articulate, these are the ways, and this is how we're going to know if this product is successful. Then we put it out there, and then we learn from it. And if it doesn't quite meet our expectations, we go back and we iterate and we try again. So that's basically our framework. It's pretty simple. What people problem are we trying to solve? How do we know that this is a real problem? And how will we know if we've solved this problem? There's a poster at Facebook that I love. It hangs on the walls, and it says, "Nothing at Facebook is somebody else's problem." And it reminds us, that if something is not quite right, or if something is more friction than it should be, or isn't as easy, then we can't just sit around and wait for that problem to be solved, because it probably won't be. We have to try and take some action and to really own it, and to try and develop solutions that are going to fix that problem. And so when I go back and I look at all of the different products that we've launched, all of the things that have worked and that haven't, I do find that there is a pattern. The teams that get really, really enamored with a solution, a lot of times we know how hard product development is. You try something once, it's very, very low chance that you got it right the first time. But if what you went after was because you had this vision in your head of how something was going to work, and it doesn't work that way, then a lot of times I see teams get lost, they get demoralized, they don't exactly know where to go from there. But teams that fall in love with a problem, that have conviction that what they're trying to do is meaningful and real, then when they put a solution out there and doesn't work, they just say, cool, let's try another solution, or let's iterate, or let's continue to find the research, and let's continue to try and understand what about the way that we build this product is going to make this work. And they don't give up, and they just keep going until ultimately they do find a successful version of the solution that solves the problem. So I hope to see you guys all go out there. Perhaps some of this framing will be useful to you in your own journeys for building products. I hope to see you guys go out there and build some really great things. Thank you.